Jiu-jitsu is a weird, physically demanding sport full of complex angles and strange positions. And it'll expose weaknesses you didn't even know you had. So here's 10 weird exercises that will help you build strength and athleticism for Jiu-jitsu. You probably haven't seen a lot of these before, or you think they're strange and kind of useless. But if you add these into your training, you're going to be able to build strength that a lot of people are lacking. To be included on this list, an exercise has to fit 3 criteria. They're not as popular as other movements you might see in the gym, so you're not going to see any barbell back squats or pull-ups on this video. They're going to train you in a way that I believe has genuine carryover to the mats. And 3, they're movements that you can actually progress. They're not just gimmicky movements that you're going to try out once, but they're movements that you can actually get stronger and better at over time. Okay, so starting with the first movement, the Landmine Rotation. Jiu-jitsu places a lot of demand on your core and challenges it in a variety of different positions. Think inversions, retaining guard, and leg blocks. So your core training just is not going to cut it if all you're doing is sit-ups and leg raises. That's where the Landmine Rotation comes in. It's a great exercise for building strength in your core. And it keeps you in a lot of the positions that will cause you to see benefit on the mats. Take a barbell, stick it into the corner of the rack or the room, and stick a plate on the other end. Make sure you start the movement by twisting your body, not just raising your arms up and down each rep, or it's going to become a bit more of a shoulder raise. The next movement is the hamstring slider curl. Playing guard in Jiu-Jitsu places such a dynamic focus on the hips and the legs. And you can often lose your guard in Jiu-Jitsu by just not having enough strength and flexibility in these muscles. Alongside this, the hamstrings can be really tough to train properly as well, especially when you have your hips in an extended position, which is really important for powerful sweeps and takedowns. The hamstring slider curl allows you to train your hamstrings by flexing and extending the knee while keeping the hips extended throughout. You can get a really sick pump on these because it forces your hamstrings to work hard throughout the entire movement. Focus on keeping a strong posture with the upper body while squeezing your glutes and keeping hips up to the ceiling the entire time. Now that we've covered movements for the core and lower body, what about a muscle that causes a lot of people injury in Jiu-Jitsu? Your neck. Well, that's where the next exercise comes in, the seated neck curl. This is one of the most common questions and complaints I get from people when asking how to get stronger for Jiu-Jitsu. But it's also one of the areas that people see one of the quickest returns on their training, as they likely have not trained it before. To perform the seated neck curl, you're going to need a neck harness, and I've linked the one that I use in the description below. We're going to try and get nice and stable to perform this exercise so we can focus on training the neck itself. So make sure to sit yourself down on a bench for this exercise. Then focus on bringing your head up until you can feel the tension in the back of your neck, and then drop your chin down to your chest to get into a really big range of motion for this exercise. But now that we've built up all this strength and muscle in the neck, how are we going to transfer that into an exercise that gives you a real return on the mats? And that's where the next pattern comes in, the neck hinge. And this is one of my athletes' favorites. But before I get to that, make sure you head to the links in the description where you'll find a free program to get you started, as well as the link to Grappler Strength, my 6-week introduction to Jiu-Jitsu strength and conditioning. Okay, so to perform the neck hinge, take your neck harness and attach a weight heavier than you would do on the neck curl. Then perform a hinge movement just like you would for an RDL or a deadlift. Focus on keeping your neck position constant all the way throughout the movement. Make sure to hinge properly and really sit back into your glutes and hamstrings. Doing this is going to ensure that you keep your pelvis, spine, and neck stable. This movement is really going to challenge the extensors on the back of your neck and help you build real strength and connection from the back of your neck all the way down to your feet. This is invaluable for Jiu-Jitsu athletes and hobbyists, particularly those that train a lot of no-gi, as snap downs are such a common part of the sport, and this is where a lot of neck injuries and issues happen. You can further attach the neck harness to a cable machine like I'm showing here, and this is a great way to load the neck hinge a little heavier and get more load that you can progress into the movement. Moving on to the next exercise, let's take a look at the Zottmann Curls. Not training your arms directly is one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of Jiu-Jitsu athletes just not prioritizing. Your arms are the first point of contact with your opponent, so it's vital that you build serious strength here. The Zottmann Curl brings us through a variety of different positions, both flexion and extension at the elbow, while pronating and supinating the wrist throughout. Because you're going to have such a varied demand on your grip in jiu-jitsu, it can be really good to reflect this training with what you're doing in the gym and not just rely on simple bicep and tricep movements. So try add these in at the end of your session to get a sick pump alongside what you're doing for your arm training already. So for our next exercise, we've got the rope rows. Jiu-jitsu places a lot of different demands on your body. And one of these demands is the fact that you're often going to have to hold positions for long periods of time. Building this endurance is oftentimes every bit as important as getting stronger or building isometric strength. And the rope rows are a great way to build these qualities alongside adding further training to your grip and your forearms. I'll get my athletes to perform these for time more so than performing them for a rep count. And doing this extends the time under tension of the exercise, which really helps to build that endurance. And this is one of those exercises where it's really important to focus on the length of time that you're doing this exercise for, not just increasing the weight. So moving on to the next exercise, we're going to take a look at the football pass. And I really like to add this exercise in for two major reasons. There's a little bit of an isometric focus in this exercise as you're forced to pause at the top of each rep as you transfer the ball from your hands to your legs. There's a big demand for isometric work in jiu-jitsu, and while this isn't a true isometric hold, it can be a really good way of adding a little bit of this into our training. Then the other reason is the fact that this exercise incorporates both the sit-up and the leg raise. This helps to hit your abs as a complete exercise, and a lot of people report serious DOMs the next day after doing this. And if you were to combine these with the landmine rotations that we covered earlier in the video, you'd have a great set of core exercises for increasing that core strength on the mats. And if you were to subscribe to the channel, you wouldn't miss out on videos when I bring them out weekly on jiu-jitsu strength and conditioning. Taking a look now at another excellent forearm exercise for jiu-jitsu, we're going to take a look at the kettlebell barbell roller. All the gripping and different positions in jiu-jitsu can leave your forearms needing a good bit of training. And once you've completed an upper body session, this can be an excellent endurance exercise to add to the end of your session. Take a kettlebell, attach a band to it, and attach that to a barbell in a rack. Focus on trying to move the kettlebell slowly, controlling the position both on the way up and on the way down. This will let you get some really good timed work into your flexors and extensors of the forearm, giving them a really good endurance stimulus. Alongside this, it nicely focuses on both the concentric and eccentric elements of the lift. The burn off these is crazy, and you're not likely to need a huge amount of weight to get a lot out of this exercise. So we've talked a lot about your grip and building strength here, but what about something to help with your frames in jiu-jitsu? Well, that's where our next exercise shines, the Z press. The Z press is an excellent exercise for building a number of different qualities that you need as a jiu-jitsu athlete or hobbyist. You'll be able to use it to build overhead strength, which is vital for keeping your shoulders strong and healthy over time. You'll also build up strength in your spinal extensors, which can be a fundamental set of muscles to have strong if you play a lot of sit-up guard in no-gi, as well as building a lot of strength in extension for finishing certain positions. You're also doing a unilateral pattern, which is really good if you're weaker on one side than the other. This will help to build up your weaker side over time, and all of these things together make the Z press an excellent upper body exercise for jiu-jitsu athletes. But Connor, that's all well and good, but what about my knees? My poor knees can barely survive all this jiu-jitsu training. Surely you've got something to help me out there. Well, I do, and that's where our next exercise, the Sissy Squat, comes in. Despite the name, the Sissy Squat is not for sissies, and out of all the exercises that we've done today, this is one of the most challenging, even at body weight. The Sissy Squat will place you in a lot of really deep knee flexion while maintaining extended hips throughout. And this forces your quads to do all the work without any assistance from your glutes and hamstrings. One of the best ways to keep your knees healthy and time in jiu-jitsu is to progressively expose them to load in the gym. And the Sissy Squat is one of the best accessory exercises that you could add to your training for this purpose. Playing with the tempo is a really good way to manipulate the difficulty on this, and adding isometric pauses at the end can really crank up how hard it is. At the start, give yourself some stability by holding on to something when you do these, but as you build up strength in this pattern, you can progress to doing them on a Smith machine, taking your knee prehab to a whole nother level. So there you have it, 10 weird exercises you probably didn't even consider would help you build strength on the mats. I use many of these patterns training myself and my clients. And once you get used to them, you might find them as some of the most valuable training tools that you have in your arsenal. So if you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as checking out the programs in the description so you know the next time you go to the gym, you're building real strength for the mats. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.